Good afternoon, everybody. As I just said to my lovely guest, we're going live from Bribie Island in Queensland. I do get around. Well, not really, because I've been in isolation. But I'm really excited to share my guest today with you all. I've got Matt Hale. Now, his career has been absolutely mad. So he's been a radio and a club DJ. He's gone DJing around the Greek Islands. Now that sounds pretty cool. I'd like to know some secrets about that. He's done radio, breakfast. He's done comedy writing for Triple M. He's been a producer and presenter for 96 FM and won a few awards along the way. And then somewhere along the line, he went, I'm going to be a hypnotist. Welcome to our show, Matt.
Hey, nice to speak to you, Annette. It's a pleasure to be here.
And now you're all the way over in Perth. Don't you just love this technology, how we can just look like we know what we're doing and have this fantastic chat?
It's fantastic. This is great. This has been brilliant for me because I love where I live in Western Australia. This is it's classed as one of the most isolated cities in the world. But with what I do, which is mainly corporate events and conferences, that kind of thing, I do spend a lot of my time traveling, and actually mostly on the east coast of Australia. So being home for 2 or 3 months has been amazing, and being able to connect with people just as much just like this has been incredible. So here we are.
Oh, look, it's awesome. You've got a fan already listening in. Matt, you're pretty amazing. I love your work.
Oh, well, nice to have you in here, Rosa.
Yeah, Rosa's awesome. She I love how she's always participating in the group. I love that. Now, I don't think I've ever spoken to a hypnotist before. I may have been hypnotized, but I can't remember. How do you go from DJing and radio into hypnotism? Like, it's not like a linear path, is it, where you go, I'm going to be a hypnotist?
Yeah, I was enrolling in the wrong course, ended up at Hogwarts, and that was it. I don't know what happened from that.
As long as I didn't put you under the stairs.
Yeah. No, I was always fascinated with how the mind worked. And initially that came out in the form of, I saw someone do this incredible memory demonstration on TV. He was a world memory expert or world champion in the memory games, whatever. And I saw him, someone shuffled a deck of cards. He looked at it for, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, maybe even quicker. And then was like, I know all those. And then he was able to say all those 52 cards in order. And I was like, wow, what an incredible, crazy brain he must have. But then at the end of it, he said, and I don't have any kind of incredible, crazy brain. It's just a technique. And you can read about my technique in my new book, blah, blah, blah. So I bought that book. And sure enough, it took a bit of learning and a bit of time. But I was able to kind of then replicate that same thing. And I started to think, well, if we could do some incredible, like superhuman-like memory stunts, what else can we do with the mind? And I'd seen hypnotists. I then took part in a show when I was 21. Loved the experience so much. Wasn't too keen on the explanation. I think the hypnotists back then were a bit guarded in their secrets. This is a power I was born with, lots of rubbish like that. And I was like, well, I need to know what the psychology behind that is and how it works. I started delving into the background of it, reading old books, talking about a hypnotist if I could. And it was just a bit of fascination. But I had a really good career going on in tandem. So it was never something I really jumped into fully until many years later, when I just had to scratch that itch eventually. And the only way for me to do that was to actually pack in a really successful job in the media and go, I'm going to put a show together, see what happens. And that's what happened about 10 years ago. And ever since then, I've never looked back. In fact, it's just been looking forward and doing all sorts of weird and wild and crazy and amazing things, and doing shows and conferences and talking to people all over the world.
Isn't it amazing what happens when you just trust your gut? And because I guess a lot of people would have looked at you and gone, you're one crazy mofo. Like, you've won awards, people know who you are, and you're walking away from this to do that. Like, are you mad? Yeah. Did people say that to you?
I did. It was very funny. I had a really good relationship with my boss at the radio station. When I went into him, I said, hey, I'm going to hammer notice in. Right. Why? I'm going to become a comedy hypnotist. Right. Okay. But I did think by at that stage he was kind of like a bit like, yeah, well, of course you are, yeah, no, whatever. But yeah, and he fully supported me with that, and we're still very good friends to this day. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock to most people because it was throwing a very successful career out the window. But to go into the unknown. But at the time, I didn't really know, would this take me as far as it has done today, or even half as far. I didn't know. But the only way for me to find out was just to give it a good shake and see what happened.
So before we dig into the mind and all of its amazing powers, I'm not one to walk away from a challenge. So while I was reading about you on your website, there's this little sentence in there that said, somewhere in the middle of all this amazing media and comedy writing career and music career, it's got, there was a year of traveling the world as Crap Elvis. I kid you not. Ask him about it sometime. So this is me asking you, what is Crap Elvis?
Oh, this is brilliant. I very, very rarely get asked about this. And yeah, this is really interesting. So in between leaving radio, it wasn't the straight jump into hypnosis. So quit radio to take a year off with my wife. She was able to keep her job on unpaid leave, but you can't keep a job unpaid leave for a year in radio. So in that year, after which I came back and started the shows, that we were just about to go away, and we had this party at home, a going away party. It was going to be a wig party, everyone buy a wig and dress up in a funny wig. As I was buying bought a wig I was going to use, at the checkout, I saw this like $29 Elvis outfit. It was horrible. It was terrible. I thought, $29 for an Elvis suit. That's funny.
Was that the white one with, his fat 70 days?
Yeah. But you got to imagine the quality at $29, including wig. So bought that, and my wife said, well, what are you doing and wasting money? We're going away. We're not working for a year, and you bought this. What you? I was like, I'll take it with me. And then I thought it might be fun, get a couple of funny photos in front of a couple of locations as we traveled around. But even before we left Australia, because I was on the radio and been talking about this, someone said, hey, I think when you're leaving in Parkes, New South Wales, there's an Elvis Festival. We looked at that. We were flying through Sydney anyway to then fly into South America. And it was around the same weekend. So we diverted and went out to Parkes first to this Elvis Festival, where I went out there and said, I'm going to dress up in this suit. My goal is to come last in all of the big things. Like I want to come last in the singing. I want to come last in the look-alike, the sound-alike, all this kind of thing. And
what a goal.
So I ended up on the stage under the moniker of Crap Elvis and actually performing with a full band. And I rewrote the words to some Elvis songs, and but in my mind, I was going to get on stage and these thousands of people were going to boo me off, and I thought that'd be hilarious. But actually, what happened is everyone kind of got the joke, and so much so that the next year they invited me back to do a full show, which I actually didn't have, of course, because it was just a stupid idea. But then in between, I traveled the world, and everywhere we stopped, I would kind of put this really bad Elvis suit on and get a photo. But that led to a lot of weird adventures because, I got thrown out of a lot of places because there's certain places you put that suit on and they're like, security, which, I got thrown out of the Louvre. I got escorted out the Louvre in Paris. I managed to get a quick shot in front of the Mona Lisa with it on, and then security came and took me out. And
it was the height of cultural, decorum.
Yeah, crazy. Well, I was like, well, you got to see what some of these other tourists are wearing. Surely this is no worse. Yes. So if you do want to have a look, the blog I wrote more than 10 years ago. This was 2008. The blog I wrote back then is still up at crapelvis.com, and you can see all these weird and wonderful photos from all over the world. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Absolutely love that. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, now let's be serious now, because the mind's a very serious thing, very serious.
Yeah.
So part of like tell people what being a hypnotist is, because we've seen them on stage making people cluck like chickens and do weird and wonderful things.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the goal of a hypnotist, to make people look silly?
No, absolutely not. And like, even with my stage shows, right from when I started my stage shows, I've always advertised them as 100% chicken free guaranteed. Like I wanted to get away from every cliche. Like I had no interest in making fun of the people on stage. I wanted us to have fun, but not make fun of them. Because in my mind, I would sit in other shows and watch, and I'd think, wow, this is kind of funny, but I'm glad I'm not up there. Whereas I just thought, well, like, that's a really bizarre situation to give an audience. Like I wanted to have people in the audience watching the people up on stage going, oh, that looks so good. It's funny. It's fun. I wish I was up there. I should have got up there. And that was always the goal. So on the show side of things, I always wanted to develop a show which was not only funny to watch, but it felt fantastic to be part of. So we weren't making fun of anyone. Sure, are we going to do some silly things? Yeah, but we're not going to actually embarrass anyone. There's so many funny, hilarious things we can do without it being embarrassing, And so, in fact, completely opposite. It was so much fun to take part in, and that's been the key core of every single one of my shows have developed over the years, and maybe what set it apart and made it look a little bit different from the start as well. So from that side of things, that those cliches were out the window. And as we went along, when you say what's being a hypnotist like, well, if I look at the overall goal, whether it's working with people in a seminar, I do a lot of corporate seminars where we help people work on their stress levels, increase their confidence, that kind of thing. Or it could be on a one-on-one situation in a therapy room, someone trying to get rid of a phobia or quit smoking, or online. We've been doing these sessions online, one-on-one or group sessions as well. Or whether it's on stage, the pure goal of all of that is basically allowing people to concentrate on a thought and a feeling so much that it starts to become real. Now, whether that's temporarily, like in a show, like if you start to talk alien in a show, it's probably not helpful for that to keep going on throughout the rest of your work week,
Unless you travel the world as a crazy alien.
But if obviously we're working on someone's confidence, we're working on someone's stress levels, working on, the goal to, quit down on, sugar or anything like that. Obviously, we're going to work for that to be a much more long-lasting suggestion, one that tops itself up and one which becomes a much more natural pattern. But always the goal of it is to focus on that thought and start to make it feel real. Now, a lot of the time, until I explain it like this, people will kind of go, yeah, really, like, how is that really possible that, people can think of something and it starts to feel real? And once I give you this explanation, anyone watching right now, this may kind of shatter this right down for everyone, because I find this been a really interesting way of explaining it. We do this all the time anyway, right? If you've ever watched a sad movie and you've cried real tears, well, guess what? Like, the dog's not really dead, right?
And that.
Yeah, and that. This is a story that's been made up. It's not really been made up. Then you've got actors pretending to do these things, but yeah, it can still make you cry, or make your heart race if it's scary or whatever. So these physical actions just from a thought. So we do this already anyway. So this is just another way of doing this. So I think once I explain that little bit like we just did then, a lot of people, it's like a switch kind of goes, oh, I get it. It is that viable. You can be lying in bed fast asleep, dreaming you're falling, and you actually, you actually wake yourself up or jump because you believe you're falling. Again, your brain is just your imagination, but it's manifesting in a physical reaction. So, we were more than capable of doing that in so many other situations. Does that help?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always think, when I'm like, one of my favorite shows is Grey's Anatomy, and I watch it, and I know what goes. I know that there's these actors, but just out of shot is the sound people and the makeup people and the PR people and the gophers and the there's more people behind the scenes than there is. But you're watching this and you're going, oh my God, I think that my heart just broke because
Yeah,
of the storyline or
right.
something like that.
And
It's so powerful. It's
it's your
amazing.
mind. It's your mind making it feel so real. And that's the game that, that I play. That's what I do. I instigate that, whether it's for, for fun on stage. And I do definitely even within a stage show, I have a moment in that show where anyone who's on that stage who's been really good at adapting to that level of thinking, I always think, well, if they're that good, let's give them a quick little positive thing for them to really take away with. So there's always a moment at the end of my shows where I say, just take 10 seconds, focus on something that you've always wanted to change. Imagine yourself being there. What would that feel like? What would it be like? Just 10 seconds to focus on that, and then open your eyes, know that your mind is going to start to guide you towards that a bit easier. Because, if you're someone who's good at creating those suggestions, those pictures in your mind, and obviously I've determined that by the people who end up on stage, well then, hey, you're going to be good at taking that on board as well. So yeah, so whether it's on stage or whether it's in the therapy room, in a seminar room, a corporate workshop, whatever, that's the arena mentally I play in.
So the brain's a really powerful, malleable thing, isn't it? Like a lot of people think that, this is what's happened to me, so this is the way that life always has to be.
Yeah,
but
and that's simply not true. Yeah,
it's not true, is it? Our brain is plastic.
Yeah,
like put a bit of heat to it,
yeah,
and it's like you can change the way you think.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I have people who've been smoking like for 40 years, 20, a pack a day for 40 years, and yet after an hour and 15, they can walk out of a session and never touch a cigarette again in their life. Like our brain creates certain patterns. Sorry, you may have been about to lead into this, but what I always talk about is that like your brain is really good at making patterns, and it does it accidentally as well as on purpose. You teach it to do something a few times, a number of times, eventually it will kind of go, all right, I'll take over, mate, now. Don't you worry about this. I'll run that pattern on autopilot. Like when you drive, you basically, it's very hard when you learn to drive. You're concentrating how much pressure to put on the brake, when do I look in the mirror, when do I turn the indicator on. But every time you did it, you went out on that driving lesson or drove, it became a bit easier, so that now, at some point between then and now, the back of your mind went, oh, mate, I've got you. Don't worry. I'll run the autopilot thing now. You can drive, but you can listen to your radio, sing along. You can think about work, your holidays, whatever it is, without even really concentrating on all that kind of technical driving things.
Yeah, that's why I get someplace and I go, how did I get here?
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure I drove.
Yeah, exactly. And we all do that. We all do that. I call that highway hypnosis, and it is, so that's how our minds work. So, if you're someone who, when people say, oh man, I'm just, don't know how you get up at 7 o'clock every day, even on weekend, I'm just not a morning person. I'm like, that's simply not true. You've felt bad about getting up early a number of times at some point. And then your mind's kind of going, oh, all right, cool. Yeah, you don't like getting up at 7 o'clock, but you start to put into a pattern of, okay, how do I want to feel when I get up tomorrow? What would that look like? What would that feel like? Okay, I'm going to get enough sleep. I'm going to set the alarm. I'm going to get up and get into the day. You do that a number of times. Boom, suddenly you are a morning person.
So it sounds like it's the power of repetition as well, that you're just kind of laying down the same soundtrack over and over again until your brain, like you said, picks up on autopilot and goes, all right, I got this. I remember someone saying to me once, your brain can't discern whether it's reality or imagined or made up. So if you keep telling yourself that you're stupid long enough, your brain's going to go, okay, stupid, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
Because most of the time we don't understand the psychology behind why that is so bad. Or conversely, why it is so good. Because of course, before every show, and bear in mind, I work some pretty big shows where I might walk out and there might be 1,000 people in front of me. And before every show, I will kind of peek out the curtain or look around the stage wings or stand at the side of the room and have a look across everybody. And I will look at those people and I will say to myself, this crowd looks amazing. They look like they really want to have a good time. They're going to be really engaged. They're going to really love what I present. And I'm going to have a really great time doing this. So that's my internal dialogue. I tell myself that every time. So my brain, my mind expects that to happen. it's gonna give me a much bigger push to that's gonna be your experience. You can literally watch. I'm not a golfer, but you can literally watch various golfers on screen in major tournaments before they take a shot, close their eyes and kind of walk through that shot in their mind. They will kind of, see the swing, they'll feel the posture they want to stand at, they'll see the angle of the club, all this, and then they'll open their eyes and they take their shot. Reason being is, that blurring of the reality and the real, well, their minds now had a kind of experience of that shot the way it wants to go. So it's going to be a bit easier. It's going to feel a bit more familiar. So, absolutely.
Well, we had Julie McDonald on last week, who's an Olympic medal winner, a Commonwealth Games athlete. She stood on that podium and she said she now teaches people how to set goals. And she said one of the missing critical links in goal setting is visualization. And sports people do that really well.
Yeah.
Yet we don't. We seem to think that it's like us ordinary people who are blobby and sit on couches and in front of computers, don't think that it's applicable to us in our business world, in our family life. There's really no barrier, is there, to going, I want a better life.
This is really interesting. So I actually do a big corporate presentation, like a keynote speech called Mind Hacking Happiness for Business and Personal Success. And in that, I literally show a video of various sports people all using visualization, whether it's golfers, bobsled team, those crazy stunt pilots, they go through all the crazy moves in their mind, F1 drivers, and I show some video of them all going through the visualization process, very quick. But then I do say, look, we don't need to have any sports use for this, but we can use it just as well and just as successfully. Because, if you are about to go into a very high level meeting, and work, quite often that can be quite daunting. If you even take 30 seconds a minute to see how would ideally, how would I like that to look? Close your eyes, really picture it. The more detail you can put, I'm going to walk in confidently. I'm going to firm handshake. Everyone's going to really be engaged in what I say. I'm going to speak confidently. I'm going to speak clearly. I'm going to know everything I'm talking about. So if you see yourself doing that, again, it's the same thing. Your brain's getting used to that's the default way it's going to run. So you can understand when you get into that situation for real, it doesn't feel as alien. It feels a bit comfier, and your mind kind of starts pushing you towards that confidence. Everything you've kind of put in your mind is that this is the way it's going to go. Is it going to go exactly like that? Of course not. But your mind's going to try and smooth that path a lot more. So, for sure. Like, we can use it for walking into a business meeting a new client. We can use it for, like I said, becoming a morning person, or, becoming healthier, or someone who likes their fitness more, or anything. And just blanket. You can use it as a template across anything.
Okay, I'm never going to become a morning person. I don't want to.
Well, that's fine if you don't want to. That's okay. Yeah,
can't make me. How do you respond to the skeptics who go, "Oh, that's a lot of woo-woo, mumbo-jumbo, silly stuff"? Because to me, it seems based on science.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to probably the explanations that maybe were floating around, 20, 30 years ago, where the old cliched hypnotists were going, oh, this is a power I was born with, and I'm going to do this and that, and of course that is just ridiculous rubbish. They were just trying to be like, I don't want everyone to know, but anyone can kind of learn to do this. Obviously it takes certain skill, but so I think for people who are skeptical, they generally haven't had the right explanation. It's very hard for me to sit here and tell you all the things I've just gone through, and it not then actually make sense to we all kind of concentrate on our thoughts so much it starts to feel real in different parts of our life. So that's just what the hypnotist on stage is doing. At that point, it's like, you're driving your dream car. Oh yeah, it feels great. It's amazing. And now, is that dream car there? No, of course it's not. But the more detail you put in, then your mind starts closing in, like when you're even watching a movie and you're just so involved in it, everything. So we do this all the time. So like I said, people who are skeptical tend to have, yeah, I don't have any issue with people. I genuinely say, look, you've probably not had the right explanation, and I know there's been some weird things, especially especially if you've got your knowledge of hypnosis through just like watching a Hollywood movie or something like that.
Hollywood has a lot to answer for.
Yeah. But also, I do say to people, like, even if you haven't had the right explanation right now, in a show setting, I'm more than happy for you to come and sit on my stage and give this a go, because, if I get 20 people on a stage, I don't keep all of them anyway. That some people are going to be able to relax easier. Sometimes it's a bit daunting being up on a stage in front of a couple hundred people or whatever it is. So, but I do say to people, being skeptical doesn't stop this process working. The only thing that definitely stops it working is if you don't engage in the process. So if you're skeptical and you come up and sit on here and I say to you, okay, close your eyes and now just direct your attention to your right hand. If in your mind start to go, no, I'm not going to do that, well, nothing's going to happen, right? But at least if you go through the steps I'm suggesting, you've got some influence on the way that it may or may not work for you. But I liken it to the fact that, like, if someone said to me, hey Matt, show me how to drive a car, and I go, okay, well, first of all, get your keys and put them in the ignition, and they go, no, I don't want to do that.
It's an important part of the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So
who's been the most interesting person that you've hypnotized and that's kind of like blown your mind with the way that they've responded?
It's interesting because in different situations there's been so many different people. I'm probably in the thousands of people who've been in front of me, whether that's on stage seminars or one-on-one session, all these things. So anytime someone sends me an email and just say, like, my life has changed because of that session, is just mind-blowing. There is one guy who sticks in mind simply because he still updates me, and I think this was from a group quit smoking session I was running for one of the big mining companies. I flew up to remote northwestern Australia, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, group of 50 guys, and who wanted to quit smoking. And one of the guys we helped sent me a message, I don't know, just like 3 months later, just saying, here's a photo. And it was a photo of a Harley Davidson. He said, I've not smoked for 3 months. He was a smoker for years and years and years. The money I've saved in these 3 months is enough for the repayments on a Harley each month. And yeah. So he, and he would still to this day, I get the odd email going, still loving the Harley and stuff like that. And so it's really nice when you see the amount of difference. And sometimes it's also in the emails I get back from people who are connected to those people. So, I've had so many people say, I'm the brother, I'm the son, I'm the daughter, I'm the wife of such and such, who was in a very bad place with it, that either mentally, or they're smoking or their weight or whatever it is, and it's completely changed who they are, for the better. So that's lovely. But then again, also I love getting on stage. I love getting on stage doing the shows. And even those shows can have such an impact with people afterwards saying, look, I've never seen my husband laugh as much in years. So thanks. So we've had some really nice things like that. But so it's hard to pick out any one person. But I do particularly love it when I get those kind of life changer emails. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's got like, I guess anybody, it's like, wow, what I'm doing is serving people and serving them for the best. So how can people hypnotize themselves?
Yeah, and actually this is really interesting. We call it different things, and I love calling it self-hypnosis, but if you want to call it zoning out but on purpose, if you want to call it focused visualization, all these different things, it's kind of the same thing. And absolutely. And what's been interesting, because I've had this chance, I've been in lockdown and at home, I've actually been preparing a whole range of little mini self-hypnosis programs, which I've been releasing for free for people to cope during this time, because things have been a little bit more stressy for a lot of people, and even for people who might not normally categorize themselves as a anxious person or someone who gets a bit touchy in different things, but because of all the different negativity kind of that's been coming at us, whether it's from our own personal situation, those around us, what we're seeing on social media, what we're seeing in the news. A lot more people are suffering from it's getting a bit too much for me. So, so for that vast middle ground, although obviously it will help people who are normally like that as well. I've just been putting out a few free audios. There's one on anxiety. There's a little, only 10 or 15 minute. Again, it's a self-hypnosis thing. So basically, it relaxes you. It's got a nice little relaxing process, then goes into a few suggestions around that specific, problem or, reactions. So, and anyone can access those. If you, I'm sure we can put a link to this.
I've already shared it.
Oh, have you? Yeah. So
I'm like a ninja.
Oh, man. /. Yeah. If you go to the matthale.com.au site, there's a link to the COVID-19.
COVID-19.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's cool. I was looking over those, and that's one of the things I think I've loved most about this isolation thing we've all been doing is how there's people like you who, command, 1,000 people in audiences and are in demand, and you're pumping out all of this free stuff to help us get through it. And, I don't know if you listen to the news, but I was listening to the news this morning for, don't know why, but, the government who was meant to hand down the budget tomorrow went, well, we're not doing it until November. By the way, unemployment could be bad until 2024.
Yeah.
So even coming out of isolation, things are going to be tough, and the type of resources that you offer can help people move through that. Do you believe, and working on this subject, is that the world's gone to shit? Does that necessarily mean that your life has to as well?
Oh, well, absolutely not. I mean, I could have gone a completely different way with this because so to set this up, how my business was affected, right? And there's two people in my business. I have a manager. My wife is my full-time manager, and so our business is predominantly live events. I have done I do occasionally work online in various things, but just obviously more now. But is predominantly flying to big events. Whether it's to present the keynote talk, Mind Hacking Happiness, or to do a comedy hypnosis show for an awards night or an end of year or whatever it is, right? So in one foul swoop, that was pretty much everything just fell. Everything disappeared. So I started the year doing the Fringe Festival in Perth. Did 30 shows there, flew to Adelaide, and then did another 25 shows in Adelaide for the Fringe Festival there. And the very last weekend, so that Saturday and Sunday of the final weekend of the Adelaide Fringe, the Monday that followed that was when they kind of went, boom, 500 people or less, no good, which would have cut Fringe out because they work on thousands around those hubs. So we'd already seen in that last week, less people. Like normally in one of those festivals type things, your last week is your booming week because you've got limited shows and people are like, I've got to get a ticket, and your ticket sales are going up and up and up. And it was actually the opposite because although we hadn't gone into kind of lockdown at that point, it was like, okay, be careful what's going on, and ticket sales started declining. And then so the last couple of days, which should have been absolute booming, were dead. And then obviously we went into that situation which then followed, which was pretty much, and now 500, now 100, now 10. And that just basically any booking I had for the rest of the year was gone, like just gone. And that's, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of business just gone. So what do I do? Do I sit back and kind of go, oh, well, that's tough. Now we'll have to remortgage the house and blah, 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 whatever, or to get on the front foot and go, well, what can I do? I mean, obviously I have some products that I run in the background. I have for people who get some really nice positive help out of the free audios. Sure, if they want to delve in and buy something more, it is there. But these free audios, I just think it's nice goodwill. Like I have a certain set of tools that I can mentally use myself, but I can also share them very easily. And if that helps someone, just sure, somewhere in the future, someone's going to remember that and go, that guy, we'll come and see him now. Now, 3 years later, we'll buy a ticket to his show, or whatever it is. I just think it's a good measure of goodwill. But I've been loving the fact that it's connected with me with so many different people, because so many people are using them and thanking me for it. And so we will have a different kind of relationship going forward. So, but I've also been the benefit, I've also had benefit from, again, lots of other people who are not in my kind of niche of tools that, I've been taking their free content and going, oh, that's great. How I can learn how to do this or learn how to do that, which, wasn't available before. So I think it's a give back. This is what I can do, but someone else is doing something else. I'm using their thing, and it's great. So while I'm at home and I have the time I'll work on my, my paid products, but for me to put down a 15-minute audio, get in a studio and record that doesn't take me more than a couple of hours to fancy that up and put that out to the world. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, as we wrap up, would you be able to leave us with maybe a few tips for those who are going, you know what, I want to have greater control over my life and things that are happening to me? What's some really basic things that people can start with?
Look, I reckon this is probably the best thing to start with, is because at the moment, like I mentioned earlier, we're under a bit more of a barrage of negativity. So even if you're someone who would normally say, I'm not that kind of person, but I know that so many people out there are, sometimes it is a little bit much, Matt, is there something I can do? Well, the realization is you don't have to be controlled by your thoughts. You can control your thoughts. And once you know that, and I'll explain very quickly, how you'll understand that is, but once you know that changes everything, because you don't have to be a bit victim of that negativity when you're suffering from that at all, no matter how small or big that is, right? But just to let you know, your brain doesn't really have the capacity to fully engage in two big thoughts at once. If I say to you, what does an elephant look like? And you think in your mind, oh, it's kind of big, right? How long's the trunk? What does it sound like? What would it feel like to touch? I know they're kind of bristly. And then I said, now think of your favorite cup of coffee or tea. What mug does that come in? How big? Is it a keep cup? What takeaway size is it? Is it warm or hot? Whatever. What cafe do you get it from? You can no longer really think about that elephant if you have to think about all those details. So your mind doesn't. Your mind's not able to kind of fully focus on those two things. So therefore, if you suddenly go, oh God, I wish I wasn't feeling this. My mind's busy. It's crazy. Everything's going on. Blah blah blah. No matter how little that happens, if you want to combat that, force yourself to think of something nice. And I always say, have a go-to happy memory. And I always think a location one's nice if you've got a favorite beach or a favorite park or a favorite mountain or whatever it is. But it could be just a favorite moment in time, but go to that image, think about it, but put so much detail to it. So don't just go, oh, that beach, what does it feel like what's the sand like underneath your feet? How blue's that sky? How hot is the day? What does that sea air smell like? If you look up and down the coast, what do you see? Who are you with? And again, while you are engaging that thought, and that thought makes you feel good because you've determined it's a really happy go-to place, you can't also think of oh my God, and work's crazy and this is that, because you have to fully engage over here. Now, we also spoke about your mind being good at patterns, it loves patterns. So this is also habit forming and pattern forming as well. So the more often you combat that negative thought by going, hang on, I'm going to go to my little happy place for a while. That's good. It becomes a pattern your mind gets used to. So the more you do that, eventually the back of your mind goes, oh, cool. When those negative thoughts in, you go, oh, I think something really nice. It starts to kind of almost bypass you having to force yourself to do that. It dissipates that negativity a lot quicker.
Your brain kind of gets with the program. It's like, hang on, you were doing this nice thing over here. Let's go back here. You felt better.
Yeah. So that I think that is probably the easiest and quickest thing that people can do. Like I said, you can download my stuff, and we can never have a conversation again if you want. But I will tell you, if you grab one of those audios, that is definitely going to help you relax your mind and also put another little pattern of, calm responses to things as well. So, that I would say is definitely use that in tandem, and you're going to see some benefit. But I'm always here to talk to people on, if they've got any questions, privately, on social media or via my website. Always, I say to people, always feel free to contact me.
For anyone listening back to this throughout the day or whenever you're listening back to it, just pop some comments in the comments and tag Matt into it, and he'll get back to you, or I'll go and track him down because I know kind of where he lives now. It sounds scary, doesn't it? And get him to explain it. Matt, thank you so much for your time. This is really fascinating. I can't wait till you get back and do some live shows again. Hopefully you'll come to the Gold Coast so I can come and see you, because it's all about me. Happy birthday for the 19th.
Thank you so much. Happy birthday back to you as well.
Yep,
I know we
almost
a similar, very big birthday coming up. That's good.
Yep, absolutely. We were both 21.
I know, incredible. Hey?
Yeah, I know. We look amazing, don't we? But I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for sharing your amazingness with us.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And just keep in touch. And that goes for anybody else out there who is watching that. Cheers.
Awesome. See you for now, everyone.